In this episode, we speak once again to the amazing Grace Vandecruze. She has 20 years of a successful career as an investment banker, primarily focused on financial services industry, after having spent 7 years as a financial auditor in public accounting. She is an insurance investment banking expert, advising companies and insurance regulators on mergers and acquisitions. And she's also active in the community. She's served on numerous philanthropic boards, is a licensed sailor, and has participated in several water leadership treks in the climbing of several mountains around the world. And in today's episode, we're speaking to Grace and finding out about how to change your money mindset. Let's find out. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And once again, we have the beautiful, the charming, the absolutely inspiring Grace Vandecruze. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you so much, Gull. You are such a pioneer, a gladiator, and we share a great sisterhood. And I'm so pleased to be here joining you and your audience.
It's a pleasure. Honestly, it's my privilege to be speaking to someone like you. You are so inspiring, so wonderful. And I can't wait to talk about today's podcast. But before we do that, everyone has heard your intro. They know you're a rock star, Grace. But please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
Yes, I'm a financial advisor to the insurance industry in the area of mergers and acquisitions. In addition, I sit on 5 corporate boards. And I am a mountain climber. I've climbed over 25 mountains, peaks on 3 different continents. And I firmly believe whether you're listening to the sound of my voice in your office or standing on the foot of Mount Everest, we are all climbing mountains. And then finally, I've had an amazing journey. I've been tremendously blessed right now in life. However, I have come from very humble beginnings, and I share that in my book, Homeless to Millionaire, and it gives the reader a clear path of how to build their financial abundance, particularly at a time like this.
Wonderful. Absolutely. So today's topic, Grace, is about changing your money mindset. Now, talk us through, first of all, why is it so important? I mean, the podcast is called Money Mindset Good Concepts. Of course, it's important. I'm going to say it, but I want your perspective on this. Why do you believe your money mindset, or the discussion about money mindset, is so important, and why we need to change it? And secondly, how do we change it?
Sure. So think of this like climbing a mountain, because I've been on a mountain so many times, and I've climbed with people who are so much more physically fit than I do. And from my various experiences in storms and even trips that we planned and we couldn't complete it because of various reasons, one of the things that I learned, what makes the difference between success and failure is your mindset. And I always say you get to a point in the altitude of climbing a mountain where your mindset is by far more important than your footsteps. And so many times people focus on their footsteps, but their psyche is so debilitating. It is so defeating. It is so depressing that their footsteps can't carry them far, because all they're telling themselves is you can't, this is not going to happen, or they're thinking things that are so unempowering to the journey. And so I know how important mindset is. And then, of course, I've worked in Wall Street for 25 years. And in my community, I get calls all the time. Could you come in and talk to us about stocks and talk to us about financial wellness? And I noticed I've spoken to audience, and they were captivated by what I have to say, and they're learning and they're taking notes, and they're ready to do embark on the journey and do exactly what I told them to do. And then I go back a year later, and very few of them have taken actions. And over time, I have learned that did not do the basic foundation.
Yeah.
And that is examining their mindset, really taking an inventory. We all have a money memory. We all have embedded beliefs about money, what we've observed from our family, what we've been told by family, friends, and so forth. We all have defining moments regarding money in our journey. We had milestones, and they create a history within us. And so the first thing I ask my audience now, and I wrote about it in my book, is look, what was your very first money memory? Let's just close your eyes and think of what was your first money memory. And there, as audience after audience, there is a thread going through. And I have an early money memory that I detailed in my book, where I had an uncle coming to visit us. We hadn't seen the uncle in a long time. My mom dearly loved him and always wanted to be the best host for him. And she laid out her best china, which wasn't much, very humble, but just gave him the best hospitality. And she said to him, "Do you want some tea?" And he said, "Of course." And so I went to the kitchen to help with boiling the water and getting the tea together. And then as I walked through, I realized we had no milk. And milk was an essential element of the tea for him. And so we had no milk, and all of a sudden I'm gripped with embarrassment. I'm gripped with fear. I mean, geez, I don't want to let this uncle down. And my mom said to him, as I'm walking towards the kitchen and she and my uncle are in the living room, I heard her distinctly say, "Uncle Leslie." And he said, "Yeah." And she said, "Uncle Leslie, the cow gave us black milk this month," because she knew the tea would still be black. So the cow gave us, so rather than say, "Uncle Leslie, we have no milk," which is a blatant embarrassment of lack, she joked, "Uncle Leslie, that cow gave us black milk that month." And I'm 7 years old. I've never heard anyone said that. And Uncle Leslie said, "Yeah, the cow does that sometimes." And so the shame, I started to relax. The shame came off of me a bit. And we served him the meal, and we had good fellowship. But my first money memory was that of shame, was of lack, and the inadequacy of not being able to fulfill this embedded goal of hospitality that we had. And many times it doesn't matter how much we start to make, that feeling of lack is always within us unless it's fully addressed. So we do an inventory. And I know a lot of advisors will say to you, do a financial inventory, and that's important. It's key that we know this. But before you do a financial inventory, let's do an inventory psychologically of how you feel about money, spiritually of how you feel about money, spiritually, emotionally of how you feel about money. You will surprise yourself with everything you have within you regarding money. And for many of us who have grew up in households, I'm second of 7, there was a household of 9. We only had one income coming in. My mom was a housewife until we were in high school. Then, of course, she went on to college, but we only had one income coming in. And so there was more month than money. There was more love than food in our house. And there were times when I ate less, I consumed less because I knew we had less. And for a child going to bed hungry, or going to bed not completely full, or going to bed needing something, but you can't have it, it just shapes who you become and how you handle money in the future, unless you work to break the cycle, unless you work to deal with that.
Wow, what a powerful explanation of why we need to change your mindset. Like, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm just going to add to this that until you recognize your prison, you can't break free from it. And every single person listening to this conversation right now, even those who are making $1 million a month, okay, there is a limitation. If you're making $1 million a month, not more, there's a limitation there. So it doesn't matter how much we expand, that our what we're allowing ourselves, our money paradigm controls how much we make. And through this continuous assessment, we can expand our money paradigm, we can expand our borders to see what we're capable of making, thereby increasing the space we have within our present, because we will have it and we will carry on expanding.
That is so, that is so spot on. Because the prison we put ourselves in, and many times at prison, the chains become even stronger as we have more experiences over time. Because many of us in our family have experienced funds not being money borrowed by a family member and it's not paid back. So that adds to the chain of thinking of the limitation of money, because when someone doesn't repay the monies because they see the money as being so limited, they've got to hoard and cheat and steal. So all of that adds added padlocks to the prison that we're in. So I know that if you're hearing the sound of our voices, that you are probably suffering from financial PTSD. And in many times when we have PTSD because of war, there's a lot of discussions as how we deal with it. But this is something we've got to walk through that journey of dealing with it. If we are going to better ourselves, we've got to take care of the ugly parts within us, or the shameful parts within us, or the parts we have to change. We have to shift. There's a shifting of the mindsets. And I give concrete examples of hearing things like money doesn't grow on trees. You ask your parents for something, money doesn't grow on trees. And, and shifting that in that I have unlimited access and resources to money. Money does not limit me in any way. And so just shifting from a poor poverty mindset to one that's filled with wealth, riches, and abundance. It's one of the reasons I wanted abundance in my title. We are in the age of abundance. And I also do it with clients. I remember as I was in Wall Street and my career was just accelerating, I would have entrepreneurs come in to speak to me, and they would say, oh, we're building our company and we need $40 million to get to the next level. And the minute I hear the money, 40 million, I would look at them square in the eye and said, that's not a lot. Oh, that's not a lot. And I could see the stress shifting from them because they were thinking about 40 million. I asked someone, they said no. And, they were saying that, but no, unless you start thinking of the abundance of resources that can come to you, both internally and externally, you're boxing yourself in. And the fact that we've created a psychological prison doesn't mean we have to stay in it. So I'm very positive about the future and what it holds and the resources we have to make that change.
So how does one change their money mindset from your point of view? What's the step-by-step process?
Sure. It is not automatic. It has to be a deliberate planning and effort. So the first is to, in my book, I detailed many of us have a history in our families of money, and or sometimes a history of our race of money.
Yes.
And if you look like me, you're African American, slavery has been a tremendous impact of not, having ancestors that worked and never got paid for what all of their hard work, and that mindset of not only the cruelty, but the financial hardship gets passed down from generation to generation. And so we're in the generation of having the most wealth, of having the most success, but many times now, the way people behave towards money does not reflect the wealth that they could access and achieve.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the step by step. One is to write your first money memory. to really do an inventory of what that is.
Mhm.
So it gives you a clearer picture of how much of a scarcity, money and shame and lack surrounded money in your history. That's number one. And
Okay.
number two, next to that on your very next page, it's here is my new chapter. Here is my new story. My past does not define me. And here is how I'm going to plan for my future to be. Things like I want to plan a future where I leave a financial legacy to the world. I want to plan the future where my children's education are going to be paid for. I want to plan a future where I have the flexibility to take a private jet when I'd like to. I'd like the flexibility to direct funds at X number of financial or educational institutions. So you write a completely brand new financial history that is drastically different than your past. You write it down, you make it very specific. And I give examples of specific goals that you write for yourself. But in addition to that, our self-talk, we have to be very careful of what we're telling ourselves, and we have to change not only our consciousness, but our subconsciousness.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's
A self-talk at a subconscious level, 100%.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And we have to really think of affirmations and talk about our money talk. Money comes to me easily.
Yes.
I have the ability to save, to build wealth, and to leave a lasting financial future. And just very shifting things that we do, that we say out loud if we have to several times. Put stick-em notes on your mirror, self-talk, speak to yourself in the mirror. Our words frame our world. In the beginning was the word. The only thing was the word. So your words are so powerful and so impactful that use everything to your disposal, including your words, to change your world.
I love that. I think you need to start. So the only thing you have under your control is your willpower. And you need to start using your willpower to change how you think and feel and believe about money. And
Yes.
you can chant affirmations till you're blue in the face, but you need to really feel them. And
Yes.
the more times you repeat an affirmation with emotion, with feelings, that's how it's like reprogramming your brain. And every time you stop thinking in that direction and start focusing with willpower in another direction, every time it's like, you say climbing the mountain, every time you go down that path, you're laying down a new pathway. And the more times you do it, the more stronger the pathway becomes. And then the pathway from the one before starts growing weeds and whatever else and disappears into the, into the ethers of the universe. And this pathway, this way of thinking, this way of feeling about money gets ingrained into your subconscious mind. And one day you wake up and you realize, oh, I'm not thinking the way I used to think about money. I'm thinking differently. And of course, when you level up, you have to think differently again and again and again. And you're a constant work in progress.
And
But it's,
and with that,
yeah,
your vision keeps changing.
100%.
You are envisioning and literally seeing in your mind's eye, a completely new vision for yourself.
Yep.
Completely. And it's interesting because I've been to very poor areas in Brazil, the favelas in Brazil, the slums in Sowetos. I've been to a homeless shelter, and I can tell you, poverty has a scent. It has a scent. I can close my eyes and sense and the smell around me of what poverty smells like. Poverty has a look. It has a look of hopelessness and despair and
Yeah.
pain
Frustration.
and frustration. I've seen that. I've experienced that firsthand. And there are times that we go through life in our journeys, and there are moments when we have to make a resolute commitment. Never again. I'm never going to back to that place. Not me, not my children, not their offsprings, never again. That the cycle of poverty ends with me. And that's a powerful way to change generations to come. You know, there's a saying that the poor plans for their next day and the rich plan for 3 generations in the future. I've seen the rich plan for many more generations in the future than 3. 3 is just some, but I'm just saying it's time for us to really shift our history. The language that I heard growing up no longer serves me. The language I told myself no longer serves me. I'm in a place right now where I'm not only living my dreams, but I'm exceeding them. I'm in a place right now that my ancestors hoped for, they prayed for, they believed for, but I'm walking in it because of them. And I know that my walk today has exceeded what they thought they could have been. And so everything in life for us is where is the next better version of ourselves. And the next best version of ourselves will only happen if we change the mindset of today. And so this is cool. This is why I love talking to you, because you understand that the secret sauce is all in the mind. It's changing the mind, because your mindset is by far more important than your footsteps.
100%, because your mindset will determine where you take the next step. And you can change your direction, you can change, and you can, as we were discussing in Friday Feature, we can go down a path which is less trodden or unknown or unfamiliar to ourselves or even our generations past. It could be a complete new pathway for us. And, you know, we come from two different parts of the world, but both brown women, and living our lives in a complete new way compared to the rest of the family and or generations before, like our parents or grandparents. But it doesn't mean that it's not for us. We are meant to be here, and we are laying down the path that our future generations will walk down easily, or at least a bit more easier. And we can be inspirational to other women around us, color or non-color, doesn't really matter, women of all color, to say that you can live a life that aligns with your dreams, not underneath, but aligns with your dreams, and you can do so even if you never have an example beforehand. You can just go out and be a pioneer in your whatever area you want to, because as long as you believe in yourself, you can do it. And if I've done it, if Grace has done it, then anybody can, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's interesting. There are times when my mom and I would have these very intense discussions because, she's shaped my world of money. And I remember one incident where, we had come to this country, and we really struggled, and she left. She told me this at the end of the day. She said, Grace, I left home today and I was walking and I needed some money. And I was saying, oh my God, just help me find $1. And she said, Grace, I kept saying that. And I looked down and I saw $1 and I picked it up. I found $1. And I thought of this and I was thinking to myself, that's an interesting story about manifestation.
Yeah, it is.
You know,
But why go
you
for a
know,
dollar? I always teach this. If you find a
I know.
dollar, expand
What,
it.
and later I said to her, Mom, what if you'd said, I want, help me find $20? Imagine what that could have been, right? Manifestations. And it applies to money as well. It really does. And let's just go over what happens if you don't shift your mindset regarding money, and you just so happen to have a wonderful job and it's bringing in more money than you ever had. The way you will spend your money will ultimately not be beneficial for your long-term financial wealth creation. And you see this a lot where people will line up to buy designer goods, and they will, what I say, wear their wealth. Looking wonderful, but being broke, completely broke, buying the fanciest car, but being broke. I have a friend who's a financial advisor, and she said this wonderful celebrity came in and they laid out the red carpet and he had his entourage and he came in and they sat him down and they went over the financial inventory and he had a lot of assets. And then they got to the liabilities parts, which are his debts associated with the assets. And he had an abundance amount of debt. And she said, and of course, the difference between your assets minus your liabilities is
Is your net worth.
And the net worth was barely there. It was barely there. The net worth was a very poor person. And she said, I looked at him and I looked at his hairstyle. I looked at the designer, everything, including the shoes. And I said to myself, oh my God, he is wearing his wealth.
Yes.
And this happens with a person who still have a poverty mindset because they feel I grew up, I had lack, I had none, I had to wear clothes that were from hand-me-downs. So now I am on a mission. I'm going to prove that I can buy the finest possible. And they keep wearing everything that's the finest possible. Here's a newsflash. Wealthy people do not walk around with designers emblazoned all over their clothes and shoes. They just
100%,
don't.
100%.
Take
Yeah.
take a look at Warren Buffett,
Yeah.
Zuckerberg. They just
No.
don't.
No.
It's you have nothing to prove, but if
And no
you
one to prove it to. Yeah.
and no one to prove it to. Another thing, another major point I make to my audience is that the reason why we have to do the inner work is because your net worth will never be more than your self-worth.
100%. Yeah, that's something that I say all the time. Yeah.
And if you do not work in your inner self and understands all the parts in you that no longer serve you, that it is time to let go of negative thinking, time to let go of lack mindset and poverty mindset, and really embrace the fullness of your potential, of what's worthy of you. And it's not about what you wear on the outside, it's what you're wearing inside.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm gonna interject here. I think most people who understand money and have truly worked on their money mindset would not allow material goods to define them. I think material goods are used by people who are stuck in the lack and scarcity mindset. There's nothing wrong with having designer bags and designer clothes and designer cars and what have you, but they should not be where all your worth is contained. As long as you have other assets to justify you purchasing an expensive car or the designer handbag, I mean, some people use designer handbags as investment tools, but if you see the strategy behind it, it makes sense. So
yes.
If someone looks at me, and honestly, day-to-day wear, you cannot guess how much money I do or do not have. I dress smartly and I dress very well, but I don't wear a single designer outfit. Even if it is, it's not shown. You can't, it's got a nice fit. You can't tell it's a designer outfit because I'm not flashing the label.
You're not flashing, and you don't need to flash
No.
it in order to affirm your self-worth. You don't need it to affirm your net worth. You don't need it to affirm your self-worth. There is just so much more within me that, it's what the treasures I have within. So once we do the foundational work of working on our self-worth, of working on our self-talk, working on our financial story, and making that major shift, it is so much easier for me now to teach you about stocks and
100%.
really building tips. And now you can take action positively and definitively and deliberately in building wealth, because you know that rather than buying the Nike latest shoes,
you might as well invest in Nike stocks.
Having the Nike stocks, having the McDonald's stocks, having the Disney stock, the Facebook stocks, the Nvidia stocks,
Nvidia, honestly, I missed that one as well. I've been looking at it for the last...
It's not too late.
Really?
It is not too late. Nvidia, It has been amazing. NOV, the Ozempic in Denmark, that company, the stock is just propelling. There are several, even in a down market, even when the market is in a bear market, because it's going down, the bear with the claws down and the bull with the claws up, even in a bear market, you can make money with stocks if you know, and if you've done your research and you invest in companies that are resilient, companies where the demand for their products and services will be there regardless of what's happening in the economically.
I think that's another conversation for another time, but we need to wrap this up. So thank you so much. Today has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. It's one of my favorite topics because I love talking about money mindset. So now tell us, Grace, where can we connect, find you on the internet? How can we connect with you?
Sure. I have a website. It's graceglobalcapital.com. And you can also get my book, Homeless to Millionaire, on Amazon. And I have master classes, and you can get that by financialabundancewithgrace.com.
Fabulous. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, the links for Grace will be in the show notes. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then down below in the description section, we'll have the links for Grace too. Please check her out and see how she can help you work on your money mindset. Well, today, thank you so much for being such a graceful guest, Grace. It's been a fabulous conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. And you are one inspirational lady. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for listening to me and Grace today. I will be back with another amazing guest on Money Talkies, finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.